What if I told you some of Hollywood's brightest stars were never meant to be remembered? They lit up the silver screen. Their names once echoed through studio halls, printed across glossy fan magazines, whispered behind velvet ropes, and then suddenly they were gone. Not just from casting calls or opening nights, but from history itself. This isn't about careers that faded with time. This is about erasure, about how the golden age of Hollywood built its legends and then buried those who no longer fit the narrative. Some vanished after challenging studio power. Others disappeared under the weight of scandal, racial prejudice, or simply refusing to play the game. Their names were once synonymous with glamour and success, yet today they're omitted from retrospectives, forgotten by the industry they helped define. Take a breath. Because the list you're about to witness doesn't just expose forgotten careers, it reveals a system designed to control memory itself. Which star do you think was erased on purpose? Whose downfall was a warning to others? Let's peel back the velvet curtain again. This time, we're not looking for stars. We're uncovering the ones they tried to snuff out. Fact 1. Louise Brooks, the rebel who refused to crawl. She didn't just break the rules, she refused to acknowledge them. Louise Brooks, with her razor-sharp bob and ice-cold stare, was a symbol of jazz-age freedom. Her performance in Pandora's Box, 1929, remains one of the most haunting portrayals of female sexuality ever captured on film. But back in Hollywood, her bold choices were read not as brilliance, but as betrayal. When Paramount demanded she dub her silent film roles into sound, she said no. When executives asked her to conform, she walked away. No public meltdown, no desperate press tour, just silence. And in return, the industry turned its back on her. She was blacklisted not officially, but effectively. Her name disappeared from studio memos. Critics were told to ignore her work. Brooks fled to Europe, where directors still saw her worth. But by the time America was ready to rediscover her, it was too late. Was it arrogance that destroyed her career? Or the system punishing a woman who wouldn't bend? Louise Brooks wasn't forgotten by accident. She was erased as a warning. Fact 2. Clara Bow, the it girl who lost everything. Clara Bow had that undefinable magnetism, the blend of innocence and danger that made America fall in love. She was the original sex symbol, the face of Flappers, the box office queen of the 1,920 seconds. At her peak, she received over 45,000 fan letters a month. But behind the glamour was chaos. Bow's childhood was a nightmare: poverty, abuse, and a mentally unstable mother who once tried to kill her in her sleep. That trauma never left. As her fame skyrocketed, the press hunted her vulnerabilities. Tabloids painted her as wild, promiscuous, and unstable. Studio executives who once built her career began to see her as a liability. A highly publicized court case involving a disgruntled former assistant aired fabricated details of Bow's personal life. Though she was never convicted of any wrongdoing, the damage was irreversible. She faded from screens by the early 1,930 seconds. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, she lived the rest of her life in seclusion, her name whispered with pity or scandal. Clara Bow wasn't just forgotten. She was sacrificed because Hollywood loves its goddesses until they bleed. Fact 3. Dorothy Dandridge, the star they refused to let shine. She made history, then disappeared. Dorothy Dandridge was the first black woman nominated for Best Actress at the Academy Awards for Carmen Jones, 1954. Beautiful, poised, and immensely talented, she was poised to shatter barriers. But Hollywood had no plan for what came next. Studio execs praised her but wouldn't cast her. Roles offered were either servants or exotic mistresses. When she refused to accept demeaning parts, the offers stopped entirely. Her personal life, marred by a failed interracial marriage and custody battles, became fodder for tabloid cruelty. Worse, her finances were mismanaged. By the time she turned 40, she was nearly broke, making nightclub appearances just to survive. In 1965, she was found dead from an overdose ruled accidental, but many believe it was Hollywood's silent hand that pushed her to the edge. Dandridge opened a door that others would later walk through, but when she stepped forward, the industry slammed it shut. Was she too early for her time, or was her timing exactly what made her dangerous? Fact 4. Barbara Payton, beauty burned by scandal. At first glance, Barbara Payton had everything Hollywood wanted: platinum blonde hair, a smoldering gaze, and a body the cameras adored. But unlike other starlets, Payton didn't just play dangerous women, she lived like one, and Hollywood punished her for it. After breakout roles in Trapped, 1949, and Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, 1950, She was poised to be the next big thing, but it was her personal life that made headlines. An explosive love triangle with actors Tom Neal and Franchot Tone turned violent. Tone was hospitalized. Neal was never forgiven. And Peyton? She was the woman caught in the middle and blamed for all of it. Studios dropped her. Directors stopped calling. She spiraled into alcoholism, minor arrests, and sex work. By the 1960 seconds, the once glamorous starlet was sleeping in Skid Row hotels. She died at 39, alone, broke, and forgotten. But here's the twist. Barbara Payton never pretended to be anything but herself. And in a town obsessed with illusion, that may have been her real crime. Was she destroyed by scandal or by refusing to be silent about it? Fact 5. Gloria Graham, the Oscar winner no one wanted to remember. She won an Academy Award. She starred in noir classics like In a Lonely Place and The Big Heat. Gloria Graham was the perfect blend of vulnerability and danger, her lips always trembling on the edge of either seduction or violence. But behind her soft voice and sultry eyes was a personal life that would come to define and derail her legacy. The scandal was tabloid gold. She allegedly had an affair with her teenage stepson, Tony Ray, son of director Nicholas Ray. Years later, she married him. Hollywood, ever hypocritical, recoiled. Studios stopped offering roles. Directors looked the other way. Even when she tried stage comebacks, the shadow of her personal choices eclipsed her talent. Despite her accolades, she spent her final years performing in small theaters and dying of cancer in near anonymity. Her name rarely surfaces in retrospectives, and when it does, it's followed by a whisper. Was Gloria Graham punished for breaking a moral code or for reminding Hollywood that it had none? Fact 6. John Gilbert, the leading man who laughed at the wrong man. He was the romantic lead of the silent era, The Great Lover, whose on-screen chemistry with Greta Garbo ignited fan hysteria. John Gilbert had the face, the presence, and the power. But what he didn't have was restraint, especially when it came to Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM. The story goes, at a studio party, Mayer insulted Gilbert. Gilbert punched him. From that moment on, his career had an expiration date. When talkies arrived, rumors spread that Gilbert's voice didn't match his face. A smear campaign, some say, was engineered from the top. His roles diminished. His image was mocked. His confidence shattered. He died of a heart attack at 38, broken, forgotten, erased by the very machine that once made him a star. Did John Gilbert's voice really doom him? Or did he speak out in a system that demanded silence? Fact 7. Fatty Arbuckle, the trial that killed a genre. Before Chaplin, before Keaton, there was Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. He was one of the highest-paid actors of the silent era, a comedic giant who helped shape Hollywood itself. But in 1921, everything changed during a party at the Street Francis Hotel in San Francisco. A young actress, Virginia Rappe, fell ill and later died. Arbuckle was accused of causing her death. What followed was a media circus, 3 trials, public outrage, and a career demolished before a verdict was even reached. Though ultimately acquitted, the damage was irreversible. The Hayes office banned his films. Studios refused to touch him. Audiences, once adoring, now viewed him with suspicion. He tried to return under a pseudonym, directing films in the shadows, but Roscoe Arbuckle, the name, the legend, was wiped from the narrative. Hollywood's first great scandal demanded a scapegoat, and he was it. He didn't just lose his career, he lost an entire genre's innocence. Was Arbuckle guilty of a crime, or guilty of being a convenient cautionary tale? Fact 8. Inger Stevens, the star who loved in secret. On screen, she was radiant, the icy beauty with depth behind her eyes. Inger Stevens rose quickly in the 1,950 seconds and 60 seconds, with roles in The World, The Flesh and the Devil, and The Farmer's Daughter. She had leading lady charisma and the studios had big plans. But Stevens had a secret. She was married to Ike Jones, a black producer. In a segregated Hollywood, that was professional suicide. The marriage was kept hidden for nearly a decade. When gossip began to swirl, her career quietly stalled. Suddenly, scripts dried up. Tabloids speculated about instability. Studio PR distanced itself. In 1970, she was found dead from a barbiturate overdose, just 35 years old. Only after her death did the truth emerge about her marriage. And by then, Hollywood had already moved on, erasing her from its halls of memory. Did the industry punish her for who she loved, or for daring to live honestly? Fact 9. Veronica Lake, the hair that became a trap. She was unforgettable, the peekaboo blonde with the mysterious wave covering one eye. Veronica Lake's image defined 1,000 940 seconds Hollywood glamour. But behind the hairstyle was a woman constantly clashing with studio control and losing. Lake's fame soared with films like This Gun for Hire and The Blue Dahlia, but she was known on set for being difficult. She refused roles she found shallow, she drank, she challenged directors, and when box office numbers slipped, studios had an excuse to discard her. She cut her hair at the government's request during World War II to stop women from imitating the style and getting injured in factory machines. The public turned, her career followed. By the 1,950 seconds, she was broke, working as a cocktail waitress in Manhattan. When fans recognized her, they thought it was a joke. But Lake wasn't laughing. She died in obscurity at 50. Her beauty weaponized against her, then weaponized to forget her. Did Veronica Lake self-destruct? Or was she destroyed for refusing to play a role off-screen? Fact 10. Maria Montez, the Technicolor queen who faded to gray. In the 1,940 seconds, Maria Montez was royalty if not in blood, then certainly in studio marketing. Dubbed the Queen of Technicolor, she starred in exotic adventure films like Arabian Nights and Cobra Woman, her image carefully crafted as alluring, mysterious, untouchable. But behind the vibrant costumes and studio posters was a woman craving substance. Montez wanted to act, not just pose. She longed for serious roles. To escape the fantasy dollhouse Universal had trapped her in. When she pushed for more dramatic scripts, the studio laughed. Her accent was too thick. Her persona, too artificial. Her requests, too demanding. She moved to Europe to reinvent herself, but time had passed her by. In 1951, she died unexpectedly of a heart attack at just 39. Hollywood didn't mourn, it barely noticed. Montez was Technicolor candy for wartime escapism. Once peace came, so did amnesia. Did she ever stand a chance, or was she always meant to be disposable? Fact 11. Sabu Dastagir, the boy wonder Hollywood outgrew. Discovered in India at age 13, Sabu became an overnight sensation in The Thief of Baghdad and Jungle Book, films that thrilled Western audiences with their exoticism. He was charismatic, graceful, and natural in front of the camera. But Hollywood never allowed him to grow up. As Sabu aged, roles vanished. There were no scripts for an Indian man in his 20s unless he played a servant or sidekick. He joined the U.S. Air Force during World War II, serving bravely. But when he returned, Hollywood had moved on. His fame had been built on Boyhood, and the industry had no place for adult Sabu. He died at 39 of a heart attack, largely forgotten. No comeback, no reappraisal, only silent. Was he a child star who faded, or a victim of a system that only embraced diversity when it looked like fantasy? Fact 12. Peg Entwistle, the girl who jumped from the sign. Her death became legend. Her life was barely known. Peg Entwistle was a talented stage actress who arrived in Hollywood with dreams of screen stardom. She landed a small role in 13 Women, 1,932, but the studio cut most of her scenes. Depressed, out of work, and alone, she climbed the H of the Hollywoodland sign and jumped. Her suicide note read, "I'm afraid I'm a coward. I'm sorry for everything." The press devoured the story. Peg became a cautionary tale, a ghost story whispered on studio tours. But no one asked why a trained, acclaimed actress couldn't find space in an industry addicted to shallow glamour. Hollywood turned her into a myth because that's easier than admitting it failed her. Did Peg Entwistle die from despair? Or from the illusion Hollywood sold her? Fact 13. Anne Dvorak, the actress who fought back too soon. Anne Dvorak had it all: intelligence, screen presence, and range. By the early 1,930 seconds, she was stealing scenes in Scarface and Three on a Match. Critics praised her, audiences wanted more. But Dvorak made a fatal mistake in the studio system. She demanded fairness. While under contract with Warner Brothers, Dvorak discovered she was earning the same weekly wage as the script girl. Furious, she pushed for a raise and time off for her honeymoon. Jack Warner retaliated by putting her on suspension and blackballing her across other studios. She had challenged the system, and the system made sure she paid. Her career never recovered. Relegated to B-movies, forgotten by awards, and passed over in retrospectives, Dvorak became a whisper, an example of what happened when you put principle over obedience. Was she erased because she wasn't talented enough, or because she spoke too loudly when no one else dared? Fact 14. Jane Greer, the femme fatale who said no. Jane Greer's face could kill. In Out of the Past, 1947, she defined the noir archetype: seductive, calculating, unforgettable. But off-screen, she was anything but compliant. Howard Hughes, obsessed with her, signed her to an exclusive RKO contract. When she rejected his advances and attempted to take control of her career, he retaliated. Roles dried up, publicity disappeared. Her name, once poised to lead the next generation of stars, began slipping down the call sheets. She kept working, but not at the level she deserved. While contemporaries soared, Greer's legacy was trapped in a single iconic role, her range buried under the consequences of crossing a powerful man. Did Jane Greer fade because of Hollywood's fickleness, or because she defied the wrong one? Fact 15. George Reeves, the Superman they couldn't save. To millions of children in the 1,950 seconds, George Reeves was Superman. But behind the cape and smile, Reeves was a man suffocating under the weight of a single role and a town that refused to take him seriously. Before the TV series, Reeves had a promising film career, even appearing in Gone with the Wind. But after donning the tights, he became typecast. No matter how hard he tried, studios wouldn't see past the costume. Offers dried up. Depression followed. Then, in 1959, he was found dead from a gunshot wound to the head. Officially ruled a suicide, but rumors swirled. Some suspected foul play tied to a lover's husband. Others believed it was the final act of a man trapped by his own image. Reeves wasn't just forgotten. He became a symbol of how Hollywood elevates, then abandons. Was his death the result of personal despair, or the industry's refusal to let him be more than a mask? Fact 16. Freddie Washington, too white for black roles, too black for white Hollywood. Freddie Washington was brilliant. Educated, eloquent, and strikingly beautiful. She gave a powerful performance in Imitation of Life, 1934, playing a light-skinned black woman who passes for white, an emotionally complex role that shook audiences. But the industry had no place for her. Washington refused to pass in real life. She was proudly black, politically active, and unwilling to play maids or mammies. That defiance came at a cost. After her breakout role, scripts stopped coming. Studios couldn't figure out how to market her. Her race was too ambiguous, her presence too confrontational. She stepped away from acting and became a civil rights advocate, but Hollywood never looked back. She wasn't forgotten for lack of talent. She was erased because her existence challenged the industry's comfort zone. Was she too ahead of her time, or did the time never really change? Fact 17. Lena Horne, the voice they silenced in the South. Lena Horne had one of the most mesmerizing voices in Hollywood. She was glamorous, poised, and sharp, a black woman the studios couldn't ignore, but they still tried to minimize her impact. In the 1,940 seconds, she became the first African-American woman signed to a long-term contract with a major studio. But in most films, her musical numbers were isolated, designed to be easily cut for Southern audiences. She refused to play subservient roles. That refusal cost her screen time. Political activism during the civil rights era made her even more difficult in Hollywood's eyes. For a time, she was unofficially blacklisted. Roles disappeared. Her music sustained her, but her cinematic potential was never realized. She could have been a legend in film. Instead, Hollywood kept her at arm's length, admired, but never embraced. Was Lena Horne respected or merely tolerated? Fact 18. Juanita Moore, an Oscar nomination without a career. In 1959, Juanita Moore made history. Her role in Imitation of Life earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, only the fifth black actor ever nominated. It should have changed everything. It didn't. After the ceremony, Moore expected the calls to come. They didn't. Despite critical acclaim, she was offered the same roles she'd been playing for years: maids, caregivers, background figures. She refused to take parts that demeaned her dignity. And so, Hollywood moved on. She continued to act in theater and TV, quietly, with grace and perseverance. But her name never reached the iconic status it deserved. Juanita Moore broke barriers, but was never allowed to walk through them. Did Hollywood forget her, or did it choose to? Fact 19. Theresa Harris, the star who was always in the background. She sang, she danced, she delivered lines with sharp wit and emotional clarity. Theresa Harris had every quality of a leading lady except for one thing Hollywood couldn't overlook: the color of her skin. Throughout the 1,930 seconds and 40 seconds, Harris appeared in films like Babyface and Jezebel, often alongside top stars. But no matter how radiant her presence, she was never given center stage. She played maids, confidants, chorus girls, never the heroine, never the one with her name on the poster. At a time when black actors were systematically boxed into servitude roles, Harris pushed boundaries, speaking openly in interviews about the lack of opportunity. The response? Silence. The studios froze her out. Offers slowed. Recognition evaporated. She retired quietly, her legacy left buried under decades of cinematic marginalization. Was Theresa Harris just unlucky, or was she a deliberate casualty of a system built to erase women like her? Fact 20. Nina Mae McKinney, the it girl who was never allowed in. She was the first black actress signed to a long-term studio contract. In Hallelujah, 1929, Nina Mae McKinney dazzled with charisma, voice, and presence that rivaled any white counterpart of her time. The press dubbed her the Black Garbo. Hollywood took notice, and then it shut her out. Despite her contract, MGM gave her no substantial roles. Racist codes and Southern market pressure ensured she was sidelined. Frustrated, McKinney moved to Europe, where she was celebrated. But back in America, she was quickly forgotten. By the 1,940 seconds, she was doing bit parts. By the 1,950 seconds, she was gone from the screen entirely. Her story is not one of failure, but of sabotage, quiet, systemic, and complete. Was Nina Mae McKinney a victim of timing, or of an industry that only applauded black excellence from afar? Bonus fact: Marilyn Miller, the star who died before talkies could save her. Before Hollywood became the dream machine, Broadway reigned. And in that world, no name shone brighter than Marilyn Miller. She was the ultimate stage darling of the 1,920 seconds, glamorous, adored, and constantly pursued by the press. At the height of her fame, she was earning $3,500 a week, a fortune at the time. Hollywood wanted her badly. She finally agreed, starring in Sally, 1929, one of the earliest Technicolor musicals. Her screen presence was electric, but the transition came too late. The industry was shifting rapidly, and Miller, used to stage lights and live audiences, found herself lost amid cold cameras and studio executives. Behind the scenes, her life unraveled. She suffered through 2 failed marriages, the deaths of close loved ones, and debilitating illnesses. By 1936, at just 37, she died during nasal surgery complications. No scandal, no headlines, just a quiet erasure. Today, even the most devoted film historians often overlook her name. She wasn't brought down by scandal or rebellion. She simply didn't fit into Hollywood's evolving formula and was allowed to vanish. Did Marilyn Miller fade because she belonged to a different era? Or because Hollywood never made space for those it couldn't fully control? Hollywood's golden age wasn't just built on talent and charm, it was built on silence, obedience, and selective memory. Behind every star remembered, there's another who was forgotten on purpose. They weren't erased because they lacked brilliance. They were erased because they didn't fit the script. So now we ask you, which of these stories shook you the most? And how many more legends have we yet to rediscover? Leave your thoughts below, share their names, their stories, because remembrance is the one thing Hollywood can't manufacture. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we wrote them back into history.